Welcome to this week's xConnect Northwest, connecting you to the experts. I'm your host, Greg Mills, and today we're joined by Jamie Callison, WSU executive chef and author of The Crimson Spoon, Plating Regional Cuisine on the Palouse. With Thanksgiving fast approaching, you know it's time to start planning ahead on what meals you're going to prepare this year. Today's episode will be all about Thanksgiving cuisine. Before we get going, a reminder that you at home can chime in with your questions simply by connecting with us on Twitter at NWPTV. You can use the hashtag xConnectNW. On Facebook, search for Northwest Public Television, or by email at kwsutv@wsu.edu. Jamie, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It is just great to have you here. And we want to start right off with talking about the traditional Thanksgiving meal is what we're all accustomed to, and we all have whatever parts and pieces of that your own family puts together. But for the most part, it's an expected meal. Now let's talk a little bit about the possibilities of widening and broadening our horizons just a little bit, and something maybe a little bit alternative.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, and I love the traditional parts of it. And however, I think that with the Food Network and everybody's getting excited about different types of cuisines and things, I think it's fun to experiment, whether it's roasting a duck or having even just ham or prime rib, or a lot of people are deep frying turkeys, or even a different method of cooking the turkey also. One of the things I always tell people is, try not to surprise your guests if they're coming over your house expecting that traditional Thanksgiving, that when they arrive that you at least have some components that make them feel comfortable, or if it's with your immediate family, that you come up with the idea together. If you want to do pasta, if you're Italian and you want to do, or even if you're not Italian and you want to do a nice pasta dish, that maybe you have a Italian style Thanksgiving, and your family kind of comes and creates it together. And I think that's important to but also don't surprise, if you have 25 people come over, don't surprise them all with this, Italian Thanksgiving. Might be an interesting evening.
So what are some of the things that people do swap out? If you keep a lot of the side dishes perhaps the same, or at least similar to what you're used to, do you change out and do, like you said, a duck maybe? Some people do prime rib. What are some of the options?
Yeah, and proteins. And then also we live in the kind of the area of grains too, a nice lentil dish, a lentil salad, even a garbanzo dish with roasted vegetables, or trying to showcase some of those local products that you have in your own backyard. I think is kind of a fun twist. And if you lentil salad with local apples and pomegranates, and even feta, or a cheese or Cougar Gold cheese, doing something that's kind of that highlights your area too is one of my favorite things to do.
Okay, and that's probably something that people might overlook a little bit as they just dig into whatever they've made every single year for how many years in a row, right?
Exactly. So I think it's fun putting in those little twists and having some fun, but also I love the traditional parts of it too, and I think every family can kind of create their own traditions and add things, and that new dish becomes a tradition, which is fun.
Yeah. Are there? Do you need to go to a special place to find some of the local cuisine that'll help your table be more regional and local, or can you find that pretty much everywhere?
I think you can find around here. It seems like our local retailers have done a great job of bringing in the local grains and local products, and also with WSU we have our organics farm, and we have our Friday and Saturday sale at the orchard, and so I think it's simplistic here to get it. And Cougar Gold cheese, of course, is a great addition. To add to your dishes too. Now, I know Cougar Gold cheese makes everything great.
It does, yeah. Now I know in your book you use a lot of all local and regional elements to your recipes.
Correct.
Right? And you've got a lot of Thanksgiving dishes that are in that book as well.
We do. We actually originally we weren't going to do a Thanksgiving chapter, but it just kind of became that way as the co-author and the designer of the book kind of dug into who I am and it just became apparent that Thanksgiving was a huge part of my family tradition, so we dedicated a whole chapter to Thanksgiving.
If you had one thing that kind of defines your family's Thanksgiving, if you're willing to divulge, what makes yours special? Everybody might have their own special twist to it. What do you think it is that defines yours?
I think it's just a lot of really good food, and one of the things I think that makes ours special is we invite people a lot of times that we don't even really know. We have some Brazilian students coming over. We have my daughter put it really well, Ashley. She said Thanksgiving wouldn't be Thanksgiving if we weren't at the dinner table with people we didn't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, that we actually open up our Thanksgiving table to other people. And I think that that's what makes ours special too. And it just getting to know other cultures and having people in your house that you can actually share with is.
Now, what if you've got guests who are vegetarian and you want to make sure that you've got offerings that make sense so that everybody can enjoy their meal? Is that something you take into consideration, or if you need to, how do you go about that?
I do. I kind of think about things that will add to their meal without making them feel like they're eating something different. So something that actually will be appealing to the rest of the guests too, because I don't want somebody who's vegetarian to feel awkward eating at the house and like, oh, I made this, this fake turkey-looking tofu thing. Not saying that that's bad, and some people really like that.
But I know what you mean.
But I want to make roasted vegetables with some nice cheese, or which will give them some protein. And a garbanzo dish would be really nice because that has the protein too in it. Roasted vegetables with roasted mushrooms, because you get that kind of meat flavor. I think it's just to do whatever I can to make them feel comfortable and make them feel like they're part of the meal and not a side dish that was just made for them.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. So we've got the group that is really wanting and expecting the traditional turkey dish and meal. The turkey itself, so many different ways to do it, and do you have any suggestions as to how to make that right, keeping it moist, all the things we're looking for in the Thanksgiving turkey?
Well, this year I'm actually, as a chef, I'm always growing and kind of deciding, changing things up a little bit, and it comes from fried chicken. I just made some fried chicken for an event recently, and I brined it. And I used to just kind of dry rub and roast my turkey and then a lot of basting it. And this year is the first year I'm going to brine, because I really think that the brine is going to add a lot of moisture and it really kind of like when you marinate something. Yeah. When you marinate something, it kind of allows you to, everybody overcooks things, especially with poultry, you're always afraid you're going to undercook it.
Right.
So brining it kind of gives you a little bit of that. And
that's a salt and water bath.
It's salt and water bath, yeah. Salt, water, aromatics. Like for turkey, I'd put rosemary in.
Okay.
And you can go to multiple different websites and stuff, and they have some great ideas on there. But brining it for 24 hours, and then I like the traditional roast. A little bit of butter on there, salt and pepper, or a seasoning, your favorite seasoning mix, and then basting it constantly. Okay. Low temperature, basting. And so that you keep the juices going back into it, and not over salting it at the beginning, because that can kind of help that can make it dry out too.
Do you season along the way?
I season it at the beginning and then at the end
too.
And one of the things I do for Thanksgiving, I think that that makes our turkey a lot better, is we start with smaller turkeys. If you buy a 25-pound turkey, that turkey's it's a little older of a bird. It's ran more, so it's worked its muscles more, so it's gonna be tougher and drier. Okay. So I do 2 smaller turkeys for even a large group.
10, 15 pounds?
10, 15 pounds.
Okay.
I'll cook one the day before and make my stock, and I talk about that in the book too.
Yeah.
And then I'll break that down, and the next day what I do is I make my turkey stock overnight, and then I slice that turkey up about 15 minutes before we're going to eat. I pour really hot turkey stock over it, put it in the oven covered for a few minutes, and that stock absorbs, the meat absorbs the stock.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, and it's had a chance to rest too, instead of cutting it right off the bird. And it's amazingly, the difference is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And it really allows you to have that really tender turkey.
And that's what we're looking for.
Exactly.
And it seems so hard to achieve.
It does, yeah. Well, and a lot of people are cooking that larger turkey too. You're already starting with something that's tougher and drier. So going to 2 smaller turkeys instead of 1 large one really helps. And then you have your turkey stock and everything for your gravy. So when you pull that last turkey out of the oven, everything's already done. You're not scrambling, and not, kind of getting rid of some of that stress on Thanksgiving Day, so you can enjoy your family and friends. Makes it a more successful day.
Yeah, it seems like the balance we're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can watch the football game,
have a
glass of wine.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What about dessert? Let's dive into that a little bit. How do you like to? What are some of your favorites as far as the finishing part of the meal?
Well, we make about 8 pies at my house, and which is about half a pie per person, so people can take leftovers home. So, but we like to do. Sometimes we'll do pumpkin cheesecake, or apple praline pie, or the galette that we have in the cookbook we really like, and we cook that so it's more of an open pie. Put a little Krugerrand cheese in there too, and it's just absolutely amazing. So of course, our pumpkin pie, or pecan pie, and apple pie, and all those traditionals. But we like throwing in kind of a little bit of rum into your pecan pie. Gives it a nice background flavor too.
Now, you have a specific situation that's not the same as everyone else's. You're an executive chef.
Exactly.
Does anybody, do they feel comfortable bringing something to your house, or do they just hands off and let you do all the work?
They're a little hands off, but we definitely love people bringing what would be their traditional dish to our house. So we have some, like I said, some Brazilian students coming, and I definitely have reached out to them and said, if you have something that's traditional for your family, even if it's not during a holiday type dish, that they feel comfortable bringing it. So
absolutely.
I love trying different foods and seeing different cultures.
All right, we have food left over every year. Whether we just absolutely went crazy eating or not, there are leftovers. What do you like to do with your leftovers? What are some of your favorites?
Well, one of the things that I developed for one of your shows is a leftover Thanksgiving muffin. And what we do is we use the stuffing for the crust. So we'll take a pie or a muffin tin and we'll butter it, and then we use the crust, the stuffing as the crust, and then we'll layer gravy and turkey, little mashed potatoes over it, and a little butter, and then we'll bake those, and the stuffing gets really crispy, and you kind of get it's almost like a pot pie and a shepherd's pie mix. Yeah. And it's become one of my family's favorite things, and I have friends now that actually have had that, and they'll actually make Thanksgiving meal the day before. And they'll make those muffins, and that's their Thanksgiving dinner.
That's officially cheating, I
exactly.
believe, but I mean, in a great way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I won't lie. I watched you make that once, and we've done it ourselves, and it really is an amazing use of those leftovers. And you really get to use almost all of them.
You do, because you can put your Brussels sprouts in there, your yams. You can put whatever you want in those, and you can do them more casserole style too. Yeah. If you want to take some of the muffins, I like because you get that crispness all the way around the muffin tin.
For sure. Before I want to make sure we don't run out of time before we get to talk at least a little bit about wine pairings.
Okay.
That can be something that is really intimidating, I think, for people to try to figure out what to really put with what foods. And the Thanksgiving meals can be all over the road. So what do you think?
Thanksgiving meals is probably one of I don't want to say the easiest, but it's there's a lot of flavors going on the plate. So I think that you have to be careful about. One of the things I don't like to do is serve wine with high tannins in it, like a Super Tuscan or a
really
wine
big spicy red or something like that.
If you go with more of the Merlots, a nice soft cab, the Chardonnay pairs really well with it, but also some of the Rieslings too. I'd say not really sweet Riesling, but some of the dry Rieslings. Gewürztraminer pairs really well with it. Right. And having a couple of different selections, because some people may prefer the red and some people may prefer the white. Sure. But the Thanksgiving dinner, the traditional Thanksgiving dinner, has, like I was saying, a lot of different flavors, and I think trying not to hit that train wreck, and so
that's what we're trying to avoid.
We're trying to avoid, and the train wreck is basically when you have a wine that makes the food worse, and the food makes the wine worse. Thanksgiving, you're less likely to hit that. I mean, there's so many different wines that will go with Thanksgiving dinner. But you start with a great wine that's I would say medium-bodied wine, either whether it's red or white, and you start with great food. That kind of makes your life and your job a lot easier in your pairing.
Well, that makes it a little less intimidating. I think people might think they were trying maybe too hard to try to find the exact match. So
exactly.
That takes a load off.
Takes a lot of pressure off. And if you and I are sitting next to each other, you may enjoy something different. And I think Thanksgiving dinner is a great place to, especially if you have a lot of people, you may be able to serve 3 different types of wine and let people choose. If people lean more towards the reds, a nice Merlot or a Cab. If they go more towards the whites, a dry Riesling or a Chardonnay may fit their palate more.
So just right down the middle, it sounds like.
Right down the middle is a good. Pinot is always a good one for pairing too.
Well, that's fantastic. I wish I had lots and lots more time to ask you many more questions, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again in the future.
Definitely.
But thanks so much for joining us today on xConnect Northwest.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We really appreciate it. And a big thanks to you at home for helping us out as well. Hope we gave you some helpful ideas for this year's Thanksgiving dinner. I know I'm going to take a few with me. And happy holidays from our family at Northwest Public Television to yours. Remember, you can stay connected with us all week long by tweeting us. On Facebook, you can put us in your circle on Google+, or email us at kwsutv@wsu.edu. Send us your show ideas as well. If you missed any part of today's show, don't worry, it'll be available online at nwptv.org. Next time on xConnect, Susan Kitchell will join us from Pullman to talk about some tips on how to keep your pets safe during the holidays. I hope you'll join us for that live and online.